If you're watching this video, you have been asked to participate in this art project. This art project kind of hinges and kind of is close to being craft, which I'm not a huge fan of mixing art and craft. However, since we are looking at the artist Esther Mangalu, who is a South African member of the NDEBELE tribe, and as you should have learned from the videos in our discussion, the NDEBELE tribe is known for decorating their homes with symbols. Now, modern day decorations using modern day paints don't necessarily have the same, impact culturally as they had in the past. The NDEBELE tribe was I don't want to say enslaved, but they were basically attacked by what a group of people called the Dutch Boers, or Boers, known as the Great Boer War. And then also they suffered through what was called apartheid in the country of South Africa. As part of a way for them to communicate, since they weren't allowed, I don't think, to speak their native language, and they were oppressed, they developed symbols that they could paint on their homes to tell of things like marriages and births and deaths, and also to, I suppose, fight their oppressors, to give symbols that helped other members of the tribe not only celebrate good things, but also to pass news along, maybe information about, how they could possibly, hinder the oppressing countries or apartheid, how they could get away with it, things like that. When I think about the NDEBELE, I also think a little bit about our own kind of messages of hope or messages of kind of defeating oppression. And I know there were stories called the Drinking Gourd, which talked about which was actually a story not about a drinking gourd, it was about the Big Dipper, and the fact that the Big Dipper, the ends of the Big Dipper's handle point north. And it was a way to, without having the American slaves, the African American slaves here in our country, without having them to get in trouble, they used some of these stories and narratives, and also now that I think about it, they also had what were called story quilts. And there's actually a very famous group of quilters still yet today down south. I don't remember what state they're in, but they still make traditional quilts that continue the narrative of their life as slaves and their rise to freedom. So the NDEBELE people developed symbols. Now, these symbols don't mean anything, not to me, because I can't read them. Perhaps if I had a better understanding of the NDEBELE culture and history, maybe these symbols do have some significance. But the idea here is not that we're doing something with the symbols symbolically, but we're understanding that communication can be done through the arts. The fight of oppression can be done through the arts, and it's in a way we're looking at the will of a people to survive, to overcome oppression, and they did so through art, through the use of symbols and artistic symbols. Now, the roof of my little hut here is not secured, so if it falls off, please don't laugh. Okay, so I'm going to turn this around just so you can see how it's done. I think my roof is turning just slightly faster than my building. Okay, so what we're going to do in this project is we're going to create a symbol wall. Okay, this all started out as one sheet of paper. I'm going to pop that top off so you can see that underneath the top here. Okay, this all started off as one piece of paper, and through the use of different handouts and resources that I found for you, you will be able to take bits and pieces of certain designs and come up with your own design to decorate the walls of your NDEBELE hut or home. And we will learn a lot about the culture. We'll learn about their struggles with oppression and how they used art to overcome those things and to communicate messages between members of the tribe. We'll also learn about Esther, I can't remember her name. Esther Malangu, who has become, she's very old. She's like 85, 86, maybe even a little slightly older. But she has become a representative of the NDEBELE tribe and this form of communication and art. So we will be watching a video about her. We'll watch a little bit of a video about the history of the NDEBELE people and their symbolic house paintings. So in just a moment, I'm going to get started with our lesson. If you are at home, you could do this at home on a smaller scale. And we'll talk about some of the materials you might need to swap out to do this project. And as always, if you are interested in having the actual materials, all you need to do is get a hold of me, and I will be glad to put together a little packet of material for you so you have the exact same materials that we're working with here at school to work with at home. Okay, so just give me a minute and we will get started. Hello and welcome to the NDEBELE Painted Homes project. The materials that you'll need, and will be available online as well, are going to be this handout. Okay, it says the artist Esther Malangu. These are some of her designs. Don't tell her I copied them off the internet because I don't want to get in trouble. Okay, but these are some of her designs, and I want you to look carefully at these designs because you don't need to do this exact design on your home. Okay, you might just pick this element right in here, this small little element right here. You might use that. You might choose to do some of these kind of triangles or this zigzag pattern. Okay, so I'm not saying that you have to use this entire design. You can use bits and pieces of any of these designs to put together to create your NDEBELE painted house project. Okay, there are several pages to this handout, so I'm just going to page through them so you can see them. Okay, a big theme in their art are triangles. I see tons and tons of triangles. Okay, and remember, in the introduction part of this video, I talked about how many of these symbols had at one time had hidden meanings. Okay, because the NDEBELE were a persecuted tribe of native Africans in South Africa. And I don't know a whole lot about the history of what's called the Boer War. In fact, I just found out yesterday through reading some things that the Boers, or Boers, however you want to pronounce it, are actually the Dutch, and the Dutch come from like Europe. But anyways, so the Dutch people came there, they settled South Africa, and they of course wanted more land, and they wanted people who would be oppressed to work for less wages or oppressed to work for nothing, no wages at all. Kind of reflective of, you know, our history with the African American slave trade. So the native Africans were pushed off their land. They were asked to, you know, stay separate from the white people, which of course, you know, we know and we realize nowadays how wrong that was and is. But anyways, so they were oppressed, and they were also oppressed once the Boer Wars ended and South Africa remained a state. South Africa had long been governed by something called apartheid. And if you can hear the word apartheid, you'll probably get an idea what that means. And basically what it means is they segregated or separated the white settlers of South Africa and the black native people of South Africa. And that went on for many, many years. I can't tell you when it ended, but I know, I think it ended in the 1980s, I believe, when apartheid finally came to an end. So slavery in the U.S. was abolished in 1864, or right around that time, at the end of the Civil War. And apartheid lasted for almost 130 years more. About 120 some years more. Okay, so into modern times, and even today, it probably doesn't make the news much, but I'm sure there are still countries that have a hidden kind of slave trade or indentured servant type thing going on. So this is a fairly recent thing in history. The abolition of apartheid, the suppression and segregation of people based on their race and their skin color. So this lady, Esther Malangu, she became a very well-known South African NDEBELE artist. So we'll be watching a video about her. You'll learn a little bit about her. You'll learn a little bit about how they painted these designs, what they meant, and how this has become kind of trendy now. She's kind of a famous lady. Travels to many museums and does many, I don't want to say shows because she's not like an Andy Warhol or something like that, but her art and her story are very popular nowadays. So let me just continue on through this. I kind of got off on a sidetrack here. So take a look at these symbols. Remember, you don't have to do the entire thing. You can just pick and choose little bits and pieces out of this. Okay, so this is some of her work again. These are just general things that I found. Some of this may be some of her designs. However, this is more of a general type thing. There's really no artist associated with these. You'll see in mine, if you recognize this pattern right here, I use that for the top border of my home. And then I grab bits and pieces of some other things. I'm looking to see if on this page I have anything that I grabbed to do my design. Okay, I've got different things on handouts. Here we got some inverted and correctly oriented triangles, some zigzag patterns. Let's see. Okay, here goes some more NDEBELE type symbols. I actually realized I just have that one twice. And I think this last one is just a coloring page. Yeah, this one's just a coloring page. So those of you at home are probably going to end up, if you don't come in to pick up the materials to make a 3D NDEBELE home, then you'll probably be asked to design your own home on a flat piece of paper, add some symbols to it, and then turn that in electronically via Seesaw or Google Classroom. So we'll talk a little bit about your options here in a little bit. Depending on whether or not you, of course, can get in and get some of those materials or just prefer to do this at home. Okay, the other things you're going to need besides the handouts, and again, the handouts will be available to you electronically, so you don't need a paper copy, but you will need a way to view them, of course. We're going to use some thick cardstock paper. It's thicker paper, kind of like we really didn't use it in 3rd grade at all. I'm trying to think. I don't think we did. But anyways, this is a heavy paper. Okay, it's going to stand up better when we form the cylinder for our NDEBELE homes. It also will not bleed through when we use our Sharpie. Okay, but this is the paper you'll need. You will need all kinds of markers and colors because we will be coloring these with markers. You will need Sharpies to do the black outlines. You, of course, will need a pencil, an eraser, and then a ruler, a ruler for sure, and you may need some other things. You may want to do a design that requires a compass. You may want to do a design that maybe requires, I don't know, other colors or something sparkly or something like that, and you're perfectly able to do that. So to get started, I'm just going to push all this stuff aside. I don't have a ton of workspace up on this little desk here. Okay, this piece of paper is 6 inches by 18 inches long, so it's probably longer than any of you have at home as far as paper. So if you have to work smaller, that's okay. If you want to come in, you want to have your folks stop in to get the materials, all you got to do is email me and I'll have those waiting for you down in the office. So you can use the exact materials we are using, as well as doing the project, the 3D project that we are doing. The very first step in doing this project, of course, is going to be to set up our glue band, because we do have to glue these together. So what I want you to do is I want you to take your ruler, and I can't do it this way. I want you to take your ruler and I want you to line it up with one of the ends of the paper. So it's going to be about 1 inch wide. Your ruler should be about 1 inch wide. I'm going to draw a line right here, and then I'm going to write glue. G-L-U-E, because this is where I'm going to put my glue to glue my flat design into the shape of the NDEBELE hut or NDEBELE home. Okay, so we're going to use this is where our glue is going to go to glue this paper together. In the remaining area of the paper, so in the remaining area here, we are going to create that design. It's going to go from one end to the other. We do have to put a door in so that you can have a little open door that also gives your building some stability while it's sitting on the shelf. So we do want to put a door in because that adds to the footprint of our project and makes it less likely for it to tip over. Okay, so the very first thing we probably want to do is get that door in. Okay, it doesn't matter if you put it off to the side. I'm going to put mine right in the middle. Okay, I'm going to use my ruler to do this too. I'm going to do the angle just like that. And then I'm going to make the door a little bit wider. The door is going to be folded right here. So when we cut it out, we're going to use this pair of scissors when we're all done. And we're going to cut this kind of upside down letter L. We're going to cut that out. Not cut the door out, but just cut up this way and cut over that way. And then this will allow us to fold open or turn open the door to give that more stability to our project. Okay, so now I'm going to be utilizing the handouts and some of the other things that I saw visually through the presentations to come up with a design for my building or for my NDEBELE home. You can do this any way you wish, really. You know, the only thing that I ask is that the designs that you create have some sense of an African feel. Okay, so you need to look at these designs. You need to say, oh yeah, I could do that. Now you might change it slightly, but you do want to stick with the spirit of the project, which is the NDEBELE tribe and their I guess, I don't want to say fame or notoriety. I'm trying to think of the word. I guess their culture of painting their homes with certain designs. So I'm just going to take a look at this. I think I'm going to do another border, just like I did on my first one. So I'm just going to go through here. I'm actually going to use the ruler as my guide for a 1-inch border. That way I don't have to monkey around with any kind of measuring or anything like that. I can just simply use my ruler to start this project. So I'm going to do it that way. I'm probably going to turn our camera angle. I'm going to shut this video down and turn our camera angle. Hopefully we'll be able to get a little bit of a wider shot. Because this is a wide project, so I want to make sure I get as much of this in there for you as I can. So bear with me. Okay, I've got our paper kind of oriented the long way now. Unfortunately, I'm still going to probably end up doing this, but at least this will give you a better view of what I'm trying to do. Okay, so I know my door is here, so you could, I suppose, put decoration on your door. I haven't done that yet. I haven't done any decorations on my doors for my example. I think I just colored it brown. But I am going to put some different designs in here. I will be using a ruler, okay? No hand drawing straight lines, okay? If you're doing a geometric design, you got to use a ruler, okay? So make sure you have a ruler present because you can't freehand straight lines. I still to this day need to meet somebody who can freehand a perfectly straight line. Now I can get away with it on a short little line, but anything longer than a couple inches and I know it's not perfectly straight. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of look at this, look at some of the patterns in our handouts. I kind of like this pattern right here, or this one here, right here. And I think I'm going to put that up in my border. And I'm already starting to think that greens and yellows, or maybe a green and brown, might be kind of a neat way to do this pattern. I'm already thinking ahead to some color choices that I might make. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put that kind of zigzag pattern up in my, I guess what am I looking for? The border of the top of my NDEBELE home. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put that design up here. Does it have to be absolutely perfect? No, that's hard. And this is a lot. This project requires a lot of ruler use, so you might be stressing just a little bit on making this border nice. And you're going to get sick of your ruler. So you and your ruler are going to have a bad relationship from now on. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in my next part of this design, which is the middle black line. So I'm not measuring anything. I'm really eyeballing a lot of this, and that's okay. These people did this by hand, and while they were very skilled at what they did, I don't remember in any of the videos actually seeing them measure anything. Okay, they did a lot of this just by memory and by skill that they obtained over years and years of doing this. They said in one of the videos, they said that the houses, if I remember right, they said that the houses are painted nowadays. I believe they said they're painted yearly nowadays. In the old times, when they didn't have access to modern paint, they would paint the houses more often. Nowadays, it's for birthdays, it's for celebrations of when the men will reach adulthood and leave the family home. So they change the painting schemes of their homes for different occasions in the family life or possibly even in the community life. So I'm going to just look at this design and make sure it's kind of the way I want it. I might make some of these lines, because these lines are going to trace these lines with a Sharpie marker, so I may make some, like these outside lines, quite a bit thicker than maybe this inside line. But I'm already thinking about color scheme that I want to use with this. And I'm just kind of taking a peek. I think that will work, what I've got right there. I might add some circles in here. For some reason, something says something's missing, like I should have a circle. So actually, I think I'm going to do that. Now here at school, we're going to have access to different tools. Okay, you may only have a small little tracer hole. Maybe it's something at home. Obviously here at school, we have these little rain gutter protectors that have all these, hundreds of circles punched into them. So I'm going to use this as another design element, and I'm going to do circles inside of these designs. So this one's at halfway down, so I'm only going to do half the circle. I'm going to do one full circle right in the middle here. One full circle right in the middle here. One full circle right in the middle here. And one full circle right in the middle here. And I've got one more half circle I think I have to do right here. Let's see. And if you're wondering how I got this to work out where I have a half circle and the designs perfectly match, I have no idea. It was pure luck. I had no numbers. I didn't measure anything. It just worked out that way. So I'll take it because it worked out that way. I wasn't planning it to work out perfect, but it kind of did. So good one for me. That may not happen to you, and don't worry about it if your design's kind of off right here and it doesn't match right here. I am not going to worry about that at all. I just happen to get very lucky with that design. Okay, so I know my door is right here. So I'm just going to put a little dashed line here so I know that that is my door, that I don't want to put any designs like over my door. I'm going to look at some of the other designs that are available here. I might cheat and copy some of the ones off the other house that I made because it's just kind of easier to take ideas that I used before and transform them into a new design. And this project's going to take some effort because you're going to be making lots of geometric shapes like triangles and squares and rectangles. So it looks super easy. It looks like it's not going to take time, but it is actually going to take quite a bit of time and quite a bit of effort on your part to do a good job with this. I see a design I like a lot that I'm going to put on either side of here and maybe even around my door. Okay, it's this part of this design right here, just these kind of crazy triangles. So I'm going to put that design around my door with the triangles facing in different directions, and maybe two of them up on top facing in similar directions. So I kind of like that design, so that's what I'm going to do. There is no right or wrong to this. I cannot read the symbols, so if by accident, you spell out, I want to quit school, I won't know. Okay, so don't worry about the symbolism. Try to be very careful with your work and your designs. Try to make them as nice as possible. I took off my art apron, so I don't have my little... Oh, I have my pencil sharpener right here. It's plugged in. Good. I think it is. It is. There we go. Okay, saved by the plugged-in pencil sharpener. Okay, like I said, I'm going to make that design, so I got to look to see how that is done. I'm going to do it on all sides, starting right here. So I'm going to extend those lines. I'm going to move down to the next level, extend those lines. Now, this is the first time I've tried this design, so there's a very good possibility that I might mess up. And if that's the case, I'm just going to erase what I've got. I'm drawing pretty lightly. I've noticed already this side's a little bit wider than that side. I could fix that, and I might. It's not terribly different, but there is a difference there. So I may change that And this time my luck ran out because I'm going to have a little bit of extra left over there. But I am going to make this side wider. So as soon as I find myself an eraser, which I had up here just a little bit ago, and now it's gone. All right, I will be back because I don't see, oh, there it is. Okay, I got my eraser. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make this side just a little bit wider to match up with that side. So now I might have to do a little bit of measuring just to see if I'm close. So it is about 3 1/4 centimeters. So I'm going to try to make 3 1/4 centimeters right here. Oh, that's 3 1/2. Let me measure again. Back in when I used to build houses, one of the things the guys always said is measure twice and cut once. So it's just shy of 3 1/2 centimeters. Oh my gosh, I keep losing it. So right there. So 26, 27, 28. And so no, 2 1/2, just shy of 2 1/2 centimeters. So right above there. Okay, so that looks way too big. Now it looks way too big. How can that be? I better start with 0. 2 1/2 centimeters. That's better. I don't know where my mind was, but I made it way too long. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set this up with with the correct proportions here so that both sides are roughly the same. So finish this off, stretch these lines out just a little bit. Okay, once we're done with the pencil part of this, of course, we're going to erase all of the leftover pencil marks. So even if I mess up a little bit, okay, like you can see I've got this thing right here. If that doesn't end up getting covered by the Sharpie, it'll get erased when I get ready to clean up the drawing. Okay, so I'm going to look at that design and I'm going to see that it is a triangle like this, all the way down. And I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with this side. That side, I might make it colored. I have not decided yet. Okay, and of course, when I do that part of the drawing, again, I'm not going to sit and torture you guys by having you watch me draw. I'll take care of that through a stop motion video or not stop motion, what am I thinking of? I can't think of the name of it. The sped up video or I can't think of the name. Anyways, you get the idea. Okay, so these little triangles here are going to have these little openings in them. I'm going to pencil these in as carefully as I can. I may come back with a ruler and straighten them out, but for right now I'm just going to pencil these little openings in. Just so I know where they're at. So this will be the opening to my building. I might actually make this more like a stoop, like something that they can step on as they go into their home. So I'm going to make that one solid color, probably black, but I haven't decided on that yet, but I'm thinking black, but it might not end up being black. Okay, remember as the artist, you have the ability to make it any color you want. Okay, as long as it fits the theme, you know, so probably not tie-dyed, okay, but you can use any other colors you want. I'm thinking black or maybe even brown, because a lot of their homes, and a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of South Africa, because that's not necessarily true. South Africa has huge cities, just like we do here in the United States. But some of their villages still are pretty traditional and have dirt floor homes, and you know, people live traditional ways. I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing. It's a choice. It's a choice that people have to keep their culture alive. I want to do some kind of design up here, and I think I'm going to do something that reflects this idea of the zigzag up here, only a little bit more zigzaggy. So I'm going to try to just eyeball the middle here, and then I'm going to draw in a zigzag pattern up here. This one's going to have a lot more ups and downs in the zigzag. So this one will have a lot more kind of ups and downs. It's almost there, but not quite perfect, but that's okay because I tried. Let's see. So this is going to have a little bit different look to it than the zigzags up on top. It's going to work. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Ah, it's going to be a little bit off. That's okay. So this one's not quite the same as that one, but it's close. And remember, this is going to be our door, so we are going to cut this out. So that reminds me, I can't do that because if I'm going to cut the door out, I got to have a cut that's going to go right here, a backwards and upside down L. Okay, I'm going to look for a design over here. I'm actually going to stop here, and I'm going to speed this up so that you're not sitting here just watching me draw this out. I'm going to speed this up, and I'll probably stop before I go to the tracing part with the Sharpie and just show you a little bit of the tracing with Sharpie, then speed it up again, that's the word I'm looking for, time lapse, and then do another time lapse of the outlining. I'll start the coloring, then switch to a time lapse of the coloring so you don't have to sit and just kind of watch me slowly go through. Notice that I am taking my time, even as a grown-up, not trying to impress you, but when I do my artwork, I like to invest time. I like to put in effort into my artwork. So I do work kind of slow. Nothing wrong with that, because as an artist, that should be your goal, is to do your best work, regardless of what other people might think of it. But you should take pride in your work. Okay, so I'm going to go through that time lapse with the rest of the creation of the design, and then I'll stop that. We'll do the outlining of it with Sharpie. We'll speed that up, then we'll start the coloring process and speed that up. Okay, here is my finished NDEBELE house design. Okay, it is finished all in pencil. I went a little bit dark. Okay, remember to keep your marks kind of light so that if you miss something with the Sharpie, you can take your eraser and clean it up and nobody will ever know it was there. Okay, but now my job is to trace all of these pencil lines with Sharpie marker. Okay, I know that's about exciting as watching paint dry, so I'm going to do just a little bit, then switch over to the time-lapse video. I don't know why I can't remember that word tonight. Okay, I'm going to switch over to the time-lapse video and get it all Sharpied out for you so that it only takes like a minute or two for you to watch me Sharpie the whole thing, rather than probably it's going to take me about 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, so see you in a bit. Oh, no, not see you in a bit. I am going to start outlining it, and then I will see you in a bit. So you're going to take your Sharpie marker, and as carefully as you can, you're going to go over all of your pencil lines. Remember that any pencil lines you miss, okay, we will just erase those when you're done tracing everything. Do not start to color it until it is completely drawn out and Sharpied. And when we talk about the coloring process of this project, we're going to talk about their use of lots of primary colors, so your reds, yellows, and blues. And we'll talk about their use of primary colors. Of course, you're welcome to use any of the colors that you have available at home. You may not, well, you should have the primary colors, but you may not have markers. So if you're at home and doing this project, obviously use what you have available. Last resort is crayons, markers, colored pencils. You could even, if you have thick enough paper, even try watercolor, but that would be tough. Okay, but feel free to use whatever means you have to color yours at home if you're going to try this project. Otherwise, I have an alternative project or alternate project for those of you who are at home. Instead of creating a small, narrow NDEBELE house, you will draw an actual house and color and decorate it that way, like we see here in the handout. So you may end up doing something like this, where you actually draw the house. You don't have to draw anything else, but you actually draw the house and then decorate the house. So I'm going to continue on with this. I'm going to go through and I'm going to outline everything. I have to keep in mind that I will be cutting that door open with a pair of scissors before we actually start to color too much. I want to make sure that I remember that that is a line that needs to be cut out. Okay, so rather than torturing you watching me do this, I am going to switch to the time-lapse video and get this done in just what will seem less than a minute or so for you. I will see you shortly. Okay, from the time lapse then you saw me trace over all of my pencil design with Sharpie. If you're watching the time lapse, you also saw that I erased lots of my pencil marks and pencil lines because we want this to be neat. So we don't want pencil lines showing through our coloring. My next goal then is to color this part. I do not cover my glue strip because that's going to be hidden when I take this and bend it over. That glue strip is going to be hidden and my design will still show. Okay, so no need to color in here at all. That's just for our glue. Okay, so I'm going to start while you're here. Then I'm going to switch over to the time lapse so that you can just see me get it finished. And then we'll show you how we're going to put this together. We're going to do the roof, which will be one thing on dark brown paper and then another identical size but cut differently on a light tan paper. I don't know if I'm going to make the light tan something that you have to have. I think it looks much better. It looks much more realistic, like a thatched roof might look, which is what their roofs are made out of, like dried grasses. So I think in the end it would look better if you took the time to make that, but I might leave that up to you. I have not decided that yet, but I'll let you know when we do it. The more I think about it, the more I'm leaning towards having you do it, but it is a little difficult to get that cut right. So let me give that some thought. Okay, I'm going to start coloring. Now the idea that I have in my head is to do the lower stripe green and the upper stripe either pink or red. So I'm going to go ahead and start that. Again, obviously this is art. So one of the things that is going to be important for you as far as your grade is concerned is, are you staying in the lines? Do you have a plan? Okay. Do you have patterns in your design? I have a pattern up here, but if I start coloring this one green and then this one purple and then that one red, it's not going to be a pattern by color. It'll still be a pattern by shape, but we really want this to kind of be what's called unity or unified. So a pattern that is unified is going to also have the same colors, not only the same shapes, same repeating shapes, but also the same repeating colors. So I'm just going to keep going. Before I do red, though, I want to test this pink and see if I like it or not. Like that color combination. Yeah, I kind of like that color combination. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this top one pink instead of red. And, of course, I got a bad pink, so I got to find myself a better pink. I have a huge stack of markers off to the left here. So I have plenty of markers available to me. That might be something that you may not have at home, but again, just do your best with what you have. Not expecting that you're going to have as many markers as I have here in the art room. I've got tons of markers here. So I have a lot more at my disposal than you may have. And if you can imagine what my house looks like, because I'm an art teacher, I've got all kinds of stuff there. I have a whole bedroom basically devoted to nothing but art supplies. I don't use half of them, but they're there because I'm a little bit of a pack rat. And every so often, somebody needs something that I might have collected along the way. And it's nice to have that reserved just in case. Okay, so that's my border. I might do something in here. I haven't decided yet. So I'm going to let you go here, and I'm going to put this into the time lapse so you can see me color the whole thing without waiting again. And then I'm going to make some decisions about what I might want to do up here with this border. I don't want it white, not this much white, so I do want to add another color. Okay, so color it neatly, stay in your lines, erase those pencil marks before you color, because once you color over those pencil marks, you can't really get rid of them, and you would be able to see them. So we want this to look nice and neat. So I'm going to put you on time lapse. You'll see what I do. You'll see if I make a decision about this, which I have to make a decision. I really don't like it that much white. Okay, so we'll see you in a bit. Okay, here you have my finished NDEBELE house design. Of course, we're going to wrap this up then into a circle, glue it where it says glue. I'm not going to do that right now because that takes a few minutes. And then I would have my circular NDEBELE home with decorations. Oh, you know what I have to do? I do have to cut out the door. I have a pair of scissors here somewhere. There we go. So I do have to cut out my door. So that I am going to take care of before I worry about gluing it. So you're going to cut your door out. You're going to cut it in that upside down L shape. You don't want to cut the whole door out. You just want to cut it so it opens up. Just like that. And then one of the things I'm going to do right here to help it fold better, so I'm going to use my ruler and a pencil or a ballpoint pen, and I'm going to push kind of hard. Go back just a couple of times, and that'll put a small little crease. You can feel it if you got fingernails. You'll feel that little bump, and that will help that to fold nice and straight. Okay, so that's going to end up being the door to my NDEBELE home. Okay, our next concern then is going to be the roof of the thatched roof or grass roof of our NDEBELE home. To create the roof, you're going to need a pencil, a compass, and a pair of scissors. So these three items. That's what you'll need to create the roof. This looks very light on the video, I think. It looks light to me as I look through my phone. This is a dark brown. And then we're going to cut the same shape, same size out of a tan. I guess you can see the difference there. It's a dark brown and a tan. So, not too hard to do. Doesn't matter. We're going to have some wasted material, but that's okay. To use this compass, you're going to put your finger on the little gold ring. You're going to pick the furthest hole out on the compass, and you're just going to make a big circle. Okay, you're going to cut that circle out using your scissors. Try to cut this neatly. So take your time. Cut along the line the best you can. Okay, once I have my circle cut out, then I'm going to fold this circle into quarters. So I'm going to take 1/2, fold it in half. Once I get it in that quarter, try to line it up here. Once I get it in that quarter, I'm going to fold it. I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to fold it in the opposite direction. So this time I'm going to line up the two fold marks so that I'm getting a 90-degree angle on this fold. So I'm going to do the best I can to get it right at 90. And I'm going to fold it up like that. Okay, to make sure that this thing works as intended as far as going onto the roof, we need to make this thing into a cone because we don't want a flat roof. So we want to make this thing into a cone. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick any of these fold lines and we're going to cut from the edge to the middle. No further, just from the edge to the middle where they cross. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut that up as carefully as I can with my scissors. Right to the middle, maybe just a tad further. And then what I can do is I can take this and I can kind of bend it in like that. And that's going to give me like a kind of a cone shape. Okay, we'll glue that down so that doesn't look too bad. I'm actually going to go right up to the next fold here. And that's where I'm going to glue it down. Just like that. But before I glue this together, I want to make some like feathery little edges on the side. Again, I'm not going to make you sit through this whole thing. I'm going to put it through the time lapse, but I want you to see how you do it. Okay, since I know this is going to be hidden, I really don't have to worry about it, but I'm going to anyway, just because I don't want that under there. So carefully, please don't get your fingers. Okay, I'm just going to make some cuts kind of close by each other, about 1 inch long into the material. And this is going to take a while. So please don't rush, because the last thing I want to hear is somebody scream out because they kind of nipped their fingers. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put it on time lapse so you can see it being done without waiting forever. This is going to take a while to get all the way around, so I'm going to put this on time lapse for you. But we want to go all the way around with those nips, okay? All right, see you in a bit. Okay, got my dark brown roof cut out, and what I'm doing is just going along the edges and kind of just bending these up a little bit. Just give them a little curl so that when I put it on my NDEBELE house, it's going to look a little bit more rough. Okay, so it's all kind of curled up on the edges. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to glue this one on there now. So I'm going to glue overlap 1/4 so that I can make my little house or my roof. These I'm going to smooth out by kind of bending it a little bit so that it's more rounded. Okay, but I'm going to glue these together. So I'm going to use a stick glue. Please use enough glue. Okay, you don't want to use just a little bit. You want to get enough glue on there that it's going to hold. This isn't the only glue we're going to apply to this, but this is the first thing we're going to glue together. So I'm going to fold this one under. 1 full quarter, push it together, and then I'm going to just kind of bend these out as far as these 3 triangular shapes. I'm going to try to just kind of round this thing out a little bit more so it's more round than cone shaped, kind of, or almost pyramid shaped. So I'm going to add just some minor little folds to it just to give it more of a rounded shape. I'll show you in person how this is done if you're having problems seeing it on the video here. So I got one hand on the inside, and I'm kind of folding it around my fingers to give it more of a round look like that. So it's not quite so triangular or quite so, not triangular, but I don't think pyramidal is a word, but I'll use it. Pyramidal. We don't want it to look pyramidal. I'm going to go ahead, and I probably should have done this before and let this dry while I was messing with that roof, but I'm going to put glue in my glue strip, or my glue zone there, and I'm going to bend my NDEBELE house all the way around. Make sure that stays, so I'm going to give that a good push down. Okay, so now my home is in a circular pattern, or what would be called a cylinder, because it's round. I'm going to try to bend it a little bit so it stays more round than it is. It's a little bit oval right now. There we go, that's pretty round. I'll bend my door a little bit, just give it a little bit more of a rounded shape. Since our house is rounded, we want our door kind of curved too, so it makes sense that it would close. Okay, this then becomes the top of my house. So that'll fit right on top, just like that. That'll be the top of my hut. Okay, but I would like to add a little bit of additional this kind of stuff going on. The feathering, I would like to add some more of that to the top in a light tan color. So as this dries, I'm going to cut one more circle out, and we have to do something a little special to this one. Okay, so I'm going to get that compass out, get this paper out, get that out of the way, get the scissors out of the way. We're still going to do a 12-inch circle. So we're still going to do holding the gold ring. We're going to find the furthest hole on the compass, and we're going to swing that all the way around. So we're still doing that. We're still the biggest circle we can make with that compass. I'm going to cut that circle out now. Okay. Again, kind of taking some care. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you don't want to cut into the circle too much, not just yet. So let me get around here. Now what I'd like to do is I'm going to cut this into a spiral. So I'm going to start on one edge, start cutting in, and cutting in, and cutting in, and cutting in until I have a spiral. So it's going to look something like this. I'm going to start with my scissors here. And then as I go, I'm going to just start going in further and further. Further and further. Further and further. Further and further. Just like that. So that it turns out to be a spiral. Okay, I'm going to cut it a little bit neater. Maybe I'll redo it on this side. Okay, no, maybe not. Okay, so I'm going to try to cut this as neat as I can into that spiral. So I'm starting at the edge and I'm coming in. I may see if I can make a copy out of these on the copiers with the spiral kind of lightly drawn in. Because I know a lot of you are going to need help, and I'm okay with that if you need help. But if I can rig it up or figure out a way to do it so that it's done for you, that would probably be best. So I'm going to give that some thought and see if I can figure out a way to do that and get this stuff through the copier. I'm not sure if construction paper can go through the copier or not, so I guess I'll learn something new. Hopefully I don't break the copier in learning my new skill. Okay, so I'm going to come down and I'm going to get to the middle. I'm not following the line anymore because I think the line was off. So I'm just going to cut to where I think the middle is. Okay, so now I've got this like spiral. Okay, it looks like a big, almost like a spring or a snake. Okay, so it's a big long spiral. I'm going to do that same thing again, and I'm going to feather this out. So I'm going to sit and I'm going to cut just a little ways in because you don't want to cut it off. Okay, so starting out, I'm just going to cut a little ways in. I'm going to cut pretty far though. I'm going to cut up pretty close to the edge. I would say, I don't know, about half of an eraser's width, or half of that metal ferrule away from the edge. Okay, so I'm going to do that this whole way around, and again, this isn't something you want to watch me do because it does take some time. It's a little bit aggravating and a little bit boring to do, but the results are worth the effort. So I think you'd want to do this for your project. Because if you don't, your project's going to be sitting next to other people who bothered to take the time to do this step, and you're gonna kind of not like the way yours looks. So I'm going to speed this up so that we don't have to sit and watch me cut paper, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, here's my tan piece of circle or piece of roof. You can see that I cut all along the whole thing. I did get a little close right here, almost cut right through it. That's probably going to break when I start messing with it. If that happens to you, we'll see what we can do about hiding it. If it does break, it is a little bit of work. My hands are sore from cutting that. That's a lot of little snips. But if it breaks, I'm sure we can figure out how to do it. So I'm going to take the roof off of my NDEBELE house. I hope I'm saying that right. NDEBELE. I think that's it. I have to look that up. Okay, I'm going to put a glue stick. I'm going to rub that all over the top of this roof. So I'm going to push this one out of the way for now so it stays safe. And then I'm going to hold this or support it from underneath. And then I'm just going to get a lot of glue. So don't worry. If you have, the worst thing you can have is too little glue. So make sure you get a good amount of glue on here. I'm supporting it on the back side with my hand, so my hand is on the inside. That's the only way you can do this. And you probably could do it while it was flat still, but you would have to work really quick or have everything cut ahead of time to get this to work. Okay, so I'm going to do that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some scrap paper, and I'm also going to put some glue on the back of this thing. Hopefully I won't rip it, but I have a feeling this is where I'm going to rip that bad cut I made. I'm probably going to end up breaking it there. But I only need glue around the inside edge, okay, just so it sticks. So your glue doesn't have to be all over everything, just around the inside edge. Notice that I did put down a scrap piece of paper because I really don't want glue all over everything, and there it did break just like I thought it would. Not a big deal. We'll see how I can hide it. I've only done this once, and that was my example I showed you before. So I don't know. I don't know if it can be fixed. I guess we'll both learn here soon. I'm pretty sure we can figure out a way to hide it or conceal that broken piece. Okay, this part is a little tricky, so you got to be ready for it. I'm going to take that broken piece out. Or did it break? Yeah, it did. All right. So I'm going to take that broken piece out, and I'm going to start with this piece, the first part of the coil. It's got some glue on it, so it's a little sticky. Put my roof down, and then I'm going to just lay this coil down. I'm going to let the coil follow its own path. I'm not going to try to direct it too much because I don't want to fight with it. So I'm just going to kind of let this coil follow its own path. I do want to overlap it. So right down here where it's kind of on the edge, I do want to overlap that part. So I'm going to make sure I get this overlapped a little bit, just like that. Okay, if you let the coil just kind of fall where it wants, it's going to fall back into that flat circle shape, which is what you want. Okay, I'm going to add that second piece of coil where it broke. So I got to kind of do some repair here. And again, I'm going to let the coil fall. The coil's kind of telling me where it would like to go. Okay, I'm not trying to force it in any particular spot. I'm just kind of letting the coil go where it thinks it wants to go. So I do want to get that a little bit more spread out. So I'm going to pull it just a little bit over. Just like that. Oh, I don't know. Try it again. It's still wet, so I can peel this off. So I'm going to give that just a little bit more push here. And this is tough because you have to be careful with it because it is a little bit fragile because we put all those cuts into it. So you don't want to pull on it too hard, it's going to rip. I think that's a little bit better than what I had. Pushing it down. I'm going to try to put that second half on there now. That's got to go this way. Add that one. This might be the hardest part of this entire project because I struggled with the first one too. So don't be surprised if you get a little frustrated with this part because this is a little bit tough. Because you want to cover it. You want to cover all of it. So you want to make sure you might have to force it just a little bit to get it to cover all that dark brown. I almost got it, but not quite. And then on top here, we'll just put that down like that. It's not perfect, but it's okay. I did miss some of that brown on there. I'm a little bit disappointed that that didn't work out as well. Okay, but I'll be coming around so I can help you out with it. The more I do it, the better I'll get. I already know that, so I think this part right here could be stretched just a little bit more. I'm going to see if I can do that while this glue is still wet. You don't have a ton of time, but you do have a little bit of time to work it. So I'm going to see if I can pull it just a little bit further to get that top to cover that brown. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but we'll find out. It's going to be closer. Closer than I was, but not all the way. That may just have to do. Okay. I will probably bring in a hot glue gun to hot glue these to your actual NDEBELE house. I'll probably hot glue these to it, but we'll probably let this dry first because dry paper hot glue is much better than wet paper. But that would be the top then. So that would be the top. It kind of looks like a thatched roof or grass. You can kind of do that same thing that we did with the other parts where you curl them up a little bit. Like we did with the dark brown part. So I'm going to curl some of these up just to give it kind of a rough or rustic look. A little bit more like something that might have been out in a windstorm or something on the African savanna. Okay, then I'm going to set it on top of my NDEBELE house. I'll detach the camera so you can see it. This might go a little rough, so hang on. Okay, so there's my NDEBELE house. And then again, I'm going to glue that top down. As I turn it around, you can see all the designs. I have to go down low to see that design that's underneath the roof. Okay, but that's going to be our next project. All right, thanks for watching, and hope you were able to follow and learn. If you're working from home, remember we'll try to have some materials available for you to pick up if you'd like to pick them up. Otherwise, if you have some sturdier white paper, you could use 1 or 2 sheets. Maybe you have to glue them together if you have like cardstock at home. And for the roof, if you have some old paper shopping bags from like Charlie's or Walmart, you could use the paper from the shopping bag to create the brown paper, because most people don't have brown construction paper laying around. Everything else would stay the same. Use anything about 12 inches in diameter to trace a circle. If you don't have a compass, if you have a compass, do the same as we did here with the compass and make a 12-inch circle. Let's see. I think that's it for this project. Okay, it does take some time to color our designs neatly. Okay, it is a cultural project. It's multicultural. We talk about and learn about a culture not from our own, or not of our own. And we learn about an artist. Okay, Esther Malangu, who is an artist who has traveled the world. She's gone to many museums and contributed art to a couple of really cool things. One thing I might show you is what's called the BMW collection of art cars. So famous artists throughout the world and throughout time for about the last, I don't know, they did, Andy Warhol did them, so that must have been as late or as early as the 1970s, maybe even the late 60s. Several artists have painted BMW cars. Mostly they're race cars. So they invite artists in to paint their cars. This lady, Esther Malangu, she also painted a tail of an airplane. I believe it was for South African Airlines. But so she's become quite famous, and her work is awesome. And you've learned a little bit about her and the NDEBELE tribe, or NDEBELE, I think it is, tribe in South Africa. All right, thanks for watching. Hope you learned something, and we'll see you on the next project.